the big debate of the hour, the Election Commission, and the disclosures that have been made of a number of donations that have come in provided to our political parties. In fact, the Election Commission has made these explosive revelations. These revelations have disclosed that the electoral bonds worth 12,155 crore rupees were bought from SBI between the time period of 2019 and 2024. The bonds worth 12,769 crores were deposited by political parties in this duration. The BJP, in fact, is the biggest beneficiary with donations up to 6,060 crore rupees. In an interesting twist, it was the TMC which ended up receiving the second highest donations worth 1,609.5 crore rupees. Congress came in third with 1,425.9 crore rupees. Now, what's interesting to note here is that the top of the donor list, these corporates are relatively little known companies. Not just that, the Future Gaming owned by Santiago Martin, which is the largest buyer of the electoral bonds. And Martin is often called the lottery king. He has been under the radar of the investigative agencies for money laundering and financial frauds. What will be the impact of all this information coming out in public domain? Is this the right course of action to disclose names of donors to political parties? Will this deter corporates and individuals to make such donations? If the electoral bonds are not the ideal way for political parties to collect funds, what should be the alternative? To answer all these questions, let's quickly get in my panelists into the discussion. Joining me on the telecast right now is Deshrada Nigam. He's a political analyst. He's also an advocate. Deshrada Nigam, a response from you with regards to the division of electoral bonds, the donations that have gone to the political parties, number one being BJP, number two being the TMC, and then number three, the Congress. My first point over here is the clear reference that individuals, organizations, and businesses and corporates have made in putting their faith in BJP for winning the elections. Then comes the TMC, and Congress has receded to the third spot. What does this indicate?
Let me do a little bit of deep, insight into the distribution of the funds. Look at the 2019 elections. BJP got more than 50% of the seats, 303 seats out of 542. Given the proportion of funds that they have received through electoral bonds, it's less than 50%. On the other hand, political parties whose proportion is minuscule, like TMC, in compared to 552 seats, including Congress, their proportion of receipt of funds is far higher, far higher than the seats that they won. Now, when a neutral person, forget about a neutral person, as an Indian, if you say, who looks to donate to a political party, will look into various factors. Apart from his ideology, those who are steeped in ideology will certainly, will not look into any other factors. But however, when you look at the factors, what a neutral person would think of it. He would think, what is the manifesto of a particular party? What is the delivery system? What is the contribution on infrastructure? What is the thing that they have done in the defense sector about India's security, border infrastructure, the work done for the farmers, the direct amount going to farmers, direct digital transactions. There are a number of factors when parties decide. There could be some other factors also, which may not be very sound in our mind. And and it could be there in the list unless and until we go very deep into it and able to establish some kind of quid pro quo. I'm not going into it. It would be mere speculation.
Okay.
A speculative response.
Okay.
However, as you look at it, I believe, and if you look at the history of the electoral funding, you would realize that every party who is in power, it was the Congress in 2014 and prior to that, was getting highest number of electoral funding from various other private sources. So that's a trend. However, as I said, there are a number of factors which go into it, and proportionate to the number of seats that the parties won, BJP has got much less than the number of seats, proportionate number of seats that they won in the Lok Sabha.
Okay. Advocate Manasvi Thapar, quickly a response from you as well. On the face value of the funds that have been donated to the political parties, is this not evident that people and organizations and businesses have put more faith on BJP and then the TMC and Congress has been receded to number 3.
See, if we are looking on the faith point of view of the corporates, and these are not people, these are corporates, and corporates, as on the Twitter, everything is going around. There is a quid pro quo, not a quid pro quo. There's a direct ED or a IT before that, and then some kind of funding and has happened. Or then after the funding, there's a project which comes out as a gift or a platter to them. It could be logical, it could be illogical, it could be on merits. I'm not going to speculate because I don't have the details of it. But what is going around on all the political parties apart from BJP's Twitter handle is all about this only: the funding and the result of that funding, or the result of something and then the funding. So I don't know quid pro quo is there or not, but something has happened, something which is unconstitutional. While we are saying that corporates have vouched for BJP, we are forgetting that the Supreme Court have said this is unconstitutional. You can continue to vouch for BJP in 2024. There is no doubt about it. You may love BJP, you may continue funding it, but the procedure of electoral bonds was unconstitutional. We are going over and above it. We are saying that yes, corporates have bet on BJP, but the process was wrong. Process was unconstitutional, and on an unconstitutional process, we are saying they were good in whatever they did. For example, if I am a corporate, if I believe that something is to be done for farmers, as my previous spokesperson said, that this political party is doing for farmers, for borders, for poor people, I can do it through my CSR activities. I don't have to donate to the political parties. But now the question comes up, I have sudden love for a political party. Just after that, I get a great project out of it. Or before that, there was a ED raid, or before there's a IT raid, and you want the country to be silent about it? No, country is not going to be silent about it. Yes, the momentum for the BJP is great. BJP is going to win for 2024, irrespective of the funding or not funding. The momentum and the pulse of the people is there with the BJP. But the process, we have to admit that the process was wrong. So we can't say the Supreme Court is wrong on saying it unconstitutional.
Fair enough.
If I had been a lawyer, I would have said it's unconstitutional. Just because my ideology is with BJP, I will not say that it is constitutional. It is unconstitutional.
So, okay, fair enough. You know, there was a drift that had happened, and the electoral bonds were brought into public domain, talking about how they were quote-unquote transparent, how the digitization had been created to be more transparent, to be more unbiased and fair to the public, and giving them information. Obviously, it has been struck down by the Supreme Court. It has been, like you said, called unconstitutional. But Advocate Manasvi, talking about how the political parties function and how they are wary of revealing the donations and the donors who have provided them donations. And let's not kid ourselves, and let's not be naive that donations by big corporates, businesses are provided to the political parties. That's exactly how the electoral process runs. That's exactly how elections are won. So are we closing our eyes and saying, are we looking the other way and saying that a political party is using quote-unquote corrupt ways to get funds, and there is quid pro quo with certain businesses and the government in power versus other political parties that have aligned, that have collaborated with industrialists and corporates in the past as well?
Megha, this is a very relevant question which you are asking. Not that the previous process or the current process is a transparent one. What was expected from BJP when it came in power in 2014 with the greatest mandate in 2019? What was expected from a political party which has always been in struggle was that you create a transparent mode of it. Like we say that the Congress got the most part of their funding in the last 75 years, and the political funding was always opaque and is still opaque. There's no doubt about it. Political party is not in business, so they are not going to generate any kind of funds out of it. So what was expected from BJP would have been that it would create a transparent mode of it. Yes, you need funding to fight an election. Yes, you need funding to give to your karyakartas. You cannot have that momentum without funding. You need corporates' help to get funding. But the process, it would not have been expected from Congress, because Congress would never do it. It would have been expected from BJP, but BJP went on a reverse mode. They brought electoral bonds, which was further unconstitutional.
So then, Manasvi, can there be any hope? Because our lawmakers are all going to be together across party lines, whether the opposition or in the government, because unless they decide to bring about this massive change at the cost which is going to be detrimental to their political careers, How is
Megha,
there a path? How do we go about
Megha,
being in the ideal world and provide transparency, put it out in the public domain if our lawmakers themselves are not agreeing on this matter, because obviously they have vested interests?
Megha, with the kind of mandate BJP is having, are we trying to fool ourselves that BJP cannot have a law for a transparent electoral funding? Are we kidding ourselves? No, that is not possible. The mandate has to come from the BJP because they are the largest political party. They are the heavyweights of the parliament of our country right now. The onus is on them to create a transparent system. Congress cannot do it. They don't have the numbers. Be it Rajya Sabha, be it Lok Sabha, BJP is having the numbers. And even if Congress has small numbers, these people are jumping every day to BJP. So we can't say that BJP can't do it. If there is a momentum, there is a will. BJP could have passed three farm laws. They eliminated Article 370. Are we saying for electoral funding, which is a small matter in a larger scheme of democracy, are we saying BJP can't do it? Yes, BJP can do it. And
of course, BJP can do it, and of course, the Congress could have done it. Of course, the Congress could have done it under Rajiv Gandhi, under Indira Gandhi, but they did not do it. And something similar that is being viewed in front of the people, in front of the mandate by the BJP as well, which has the majority, an absolute one in being able to table the bills, pass them in both the houses without facing any resistance. And if there is resistance, it is inconsequential because the numbers are on the side of the government. Quickly also getting in Sharat Kohli on the telecast with me. And Sharat, a response from you. You know, it is dicey, it is sketchy that a number of these corporates, the top donors, are maligned in controversy. There are financial frauds, there are money laundering charges. For example, the topmost company that has donated multiple crores of rupees, it has not been mentioned which political party has it donated it to, but it has been under the radar of our investigative agencies.
Well, Megha, let me speak out a bitter truth. And the bitter truth is that if there is no quid pro quo, then the funding will dry up. You know, let us accept it as a reality. You know, you will only have these small little donors who will come and donate 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, big donations, mostly have a quid pro quo. And you know, the fact that, you know, my preceding learned speaker said very rightly that BJP can do it, and so could you very rightly said Congress could have done it in 65 years, but Congress didn't do it. Because the fact of the matter is, and this is another bitter truth, that if there is complete transparency, I'm making a very bold statement, and you'll have to pardon me for this, that if there is complete transparency in political funding, there will be no political funding. Please take it from me. There will be no political funding. Or when I say no, I mean there could be negligible political funding, which would be insufficient for the parties to run their whole election process. Now, this is the bitter truth we accept. Now, comparing pre-electoral bond era and electoral bond era. So, you know, this was like, earlier there was nothing. Today there's nothing. How donations used to happen, I said that earlier also. You just, I mean, your name was a secret. Nobody knew the books of accounts of the political parties were, you know, not over the board and so on. So at least electoral bonds brought some kind of transparency. I don't say complete transparency. At least today, as we talk, Megha, aren't the names of people on record? Tell me, if these electoral bonds were not there, would you have had these names of 20,000 bonds? Answer my question. The answer is no. It is only because there were electoral bonds that today we have this data in public domain. Before electoral bonds, there was no such data. As of today, there is, as we talk, donations might be happening while we talk. There is no such data available in public domain. So at least, see, when the bond was introduced, it was said that the KYC has to be taken, and KYC ultimately culminated, although I consider it as a breach of trust because the donor in good faith donated that his name would not be disclosed. And today I feel this is breach of trust with the donor, whether it is by Supreme Court order or by any other promulgation. That is besides the point. But the fact of the matter is that a donor was in good faith donating that my name, my identity would never be disclosed. But that has not happened. So what will happen now? You will see some kind of drying up of political donations in some way or the other. One. Two, if they happen, they will not happen on record. So electoral bonds, if somebody questions the transparency of electoral bonds, I have the list of 20,000 people I can match the names also. It will take me probably a few days to match the names of donors and the beneficiaries. So what is not transparent about it? Everything is transparent. That's why we are talking today.
Okay.
Aren't we
All
discussing this because the names have come out? What an irony.
But we have to say, obviously, if the Supreme Court had not put out that order and not asked the State Bank of India to release that data, to disclose that data, it would not have been in the public domain. Having said that, Sumit, a response from you, particularly with regards to the questions that are being raised. Is there then a possibility that the big corporates of our country, the Adanis and the Ambanis and the Tatas, were not giving any donations, any funds to the political parties? It sounds absurd, it looks absurd. Were there alternative ways of providing funding to political parties?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. That if things like electoral bonds are not there, see, despite electoral bonds being there, Megha, what you said right now is a very, very relevant point, that how did the donations happen besides the electoral bonds? Imagine if electoral bonds are not there, then the lottery company would also not be on record. So that's the whole point, that at least there is some kind of transparency, better than being a completely opaque system.
I feel this is a futile activity when you bring in rules, when you bring in laws to quote unquote tell the public, tell the people of India that, see, this is a transparent process, but nothing is transparent about donations of funds that are provided to the political parties, whether it is the Congress, TMC, BJP, across party lines. So, we can talk about the ideal situation that the country can live in, the ideal situation that the world functions, the political process happens, but the truth is, it's as opaque can be. Political parties do not want to disclose where the funding comes from, and for obvious reasons, and that's exactly what has been happening since 1947. It will continue to happen in our future as well. So, quickly a response from you about the situation. So, when political parties know, when our politicians know that there is no way that they are going to be revealing this data, it is detrimental to their functioning, it's detrimental to the businesses and the corporates who are functioning in the country, why play this game of mockery? Why come across, why act like you are holier than thou, you are better than the political party that is sitting in the opposition?
Megha ji, thanks for having me on your show. Very interesting discussion today. And let me start from where Dr. Kohli ended, because he made some very compelling points which are logical, legal, and Nigam Sahab as well. You see, the point here is Congress was in power for 65 years. 65 साल से election हो रहा है ना, पैसा कहाँ से आया? Well, do you think Congress got it from the Karyakartas who paid 500 rupees, 100 rupees and they fought the election? No. Where did the money come from? Itra ke mitra, 200 crore. That Bengal cash for 54 crores, DK should come over, a mountain of cash. So if you don't have electoral bonds, you will have same Itra ke mitra and mountains of cash everywhere. So what Dr. Kohli makes a compelling point is, after Modi ji came in, at least you brought some transparency. If I have to donate, they have to give my KYC. So the State Bank of India knows who this is a person. I have donated legitimate money. It does not come money laundering. It does not come from Hawala. It does not come from illicit sources. If I have legitimate money, I can only make an electoral bond. Understand that. I must have that accounted money. My KYC goes into this. Today, if you have 20,000 names from nothing for 75 years, at least you have 20,000 names. At least we are talking a lottery wala, ye kya hai, whatever the person is. Second point is there.
But it's just that, the smaller fish have to bear the brunt of it. The bigger sharks in the sea are unscathed by all this procedure that has taken place.
No, you see, Megha ji, it's very simple. One thing which has completely got debunked today is Ambani Adani. If you look at the bonds, Ambani Adani ji to kahin khade hi nahi hote. So what will Rahul Gandhi do today evening? Aaj to agenda hi le liya electoral bonds se. Ambani Adani ki dapli bajate the. Ab kiski dapli bajayenge? Na Ambani and Adani hai. They don't look to be there. So the point here is the amount of...
But that's exactly that I'm saying. That are we so naive as a country, as our countrymen, that we are thinking and assuming that since the names of the biggest corporates in our country are not mentioned in the electoral bonds disclosure, that means that actually literally means that there have been no funds that have been donated by the big businesses, by the big industrialists of our country?
I'll tell you, when you are big business houses, they don't want to repute their They don't want to put everything on stake. They will prefer to go through electoral bond. If Ambani ji or Adani ji has to donate, he will prefer to go through electoral bond rather than carrying a truck of cash and giving it to X, Y, or Z. He won't do that. So electoral bonds have bought the requisite amount of transparency. There is nothing to blame the BJP. Only Prime Minister Modi could have this courage. And Dr. Kohli makes a compelling point. There's a breach of trust. You were told that you give this money, your name will never be disclosed. This was a sovereign guarantee from the government of India, and Supreme Court and its wise prudence, whatever they decided. Now look, what is the problem? If I'm donating, let's say 1,000 crores to BJP, tomorrow I'll get a phone from Congress. अरे भैया BJP को 1,000 crore दिया, हमें नहीं दे रहे क्या? Then Samajwadi will come. भैया हमारे 500. Then BSP will call me. Then Aam Aadmi will call me. मेरे 100 crore. So to avoid that, you had come up with the electoral bond wherein a legitimate money through bank will enter the political system of a political party, and I will not be subjected to political ransom and extortion as a donor. That is what it was done. Now, if you disclose the names, I'm very sure all these people would have already got the calls. They'll be getting the calls. आपने इनको इतना पैसा दिया, हमें क्यों नहीं दिया? That is why electoral bond was involved. So from a 0%, complete dark to 70-75% transparency, this was already a work done. Now you have to name the names. You're talking
Megha, please allow me.
naming people. So if you don't have this electoral bonds, who on earth was funding elections for last 65 years? Where did the money for elections come from? Did a Karyakarta pay 50 crore election hota tha?
And that's the moot point on which I'm having this discussion.
Remember,
I'll come to you. I'll come to you, Manas, if you want to make a point.
250 crores cash. One Congress MLA I want to make, I forget the name. He went on a bicycle. वो साइकिल पे गए, कह रहा मोदी जी ने पेट्रोल की कीमत बहुत बढ़ा दी, उनके घर में रेड होता सिर्फ 500 करोड़ मिलता है, only 500 crore. So then you will have these mountains of cash everywhere. So to avoid them to have legislative made.
No, but of course there are mountains of cash that have been raided, that have been confiscated by a number of times by investigative agencies on top ministers. We saw the example of the Chhattisgarh Chief Minister, former Chief Minister. His residences, his offices were raided, and there were rooms full of cash that had been confiscated. The residences and the offices had been raided. Quickly,
500 crore for a Congress MLA?
Manas, you want to make a point.
I think it is laughable, and it is also on the contrary challenging the authority of the Supreme Court when I say that electoral bonds were the best part of what could Modi ji do for the country. I don't agree at all. Not completely, I don't agree at all. Why do I say that? As in last 10 years, what we have seen is, yes, itra ke mitra bhi dikhe hain. We have seen ki bahut sare opposition leaders ke paas funding dikhi hai, but tell me one raid which comes to our mind by the ED or IT on BJP leaders. Are we saying that there is no cash in the BJP? Are we saying that all the money whichever came to BJP came only through electoral bond? And suddenly the same people are now saying that electoral bonds are the most transparent mode of funding. Till 2018, till 24, we didn't even know there is a lottery person who's funding BJP, who's funding Congress, who's funding TMC. We didn't even know that. And now, only after the Supreme Court's judgment, finally we know that there is a lottery person who's funding political parties. And what was this business all about? And now we are saying this is the transparent mode. वो funding कर रहा है 2018 में, we come to know about it in 2024 only after Supreme Court judgment.
So then, Manasvi, what happens to the clause of the implicit trust that the donor gives when the donation happens through electoral bonds or any other way which used to precede the 2018 legislation that came into being?
See, as I started my conversation in the first part of the debate, I would have expected BJP to create a transparent mode of a policy or a law in which political parties get their funding. And why do you want to hide it out? You can hide your vote, but why do you want to hide your funding? Why do you want to create that narrative? And this is
a utopian world that you are wanting to create. This has not happened in any country across the globe. You take a look at the United States elections, their donations, their funding is shrouded in mystery. It is always secretively done. It has never happened in the history of any country, any election, that the donations, the donors are provided the transparency, quote unquote transparency or breach of trust has happened in against their favor. Quickly getting in Deshata Nigam. I'll come to you. Let me get Deshata Nigam as well. So how do we work things from here? Now that the Congress, other opposition parties, even the Supreme Court have pulled up the BJP over the electoral bonds, can a consensus be built for a more transparent way of letting people know how the donations reach to the political parties? who are these donors, and or is this the right way of going about it, keeping in mind that donors would want to keep their identities secret?
Well, on the lighter note, following Sumit Peer, if there are Itar ke mitra, there are Daru ke dost also. On the opposition side, where hundreds of 500 crores was, was recovered. Now, let me tell you, one of the reasons for donating is the stability the government will provide in the political system in the country. That's one of the factors for donation that I missed in the previous one. Now, I say Supreme Court is wrong. Nobody's challenging the authority. Supreme Court itself finds itself wrong and tomorrow changes its own judgment. Number of times they have done so. So you can't say whether Supreme Court is right or wrong today. I am saying Supreme Court is wrong in passing this judgment. It has violated its own fundamental rules that judgments are always prospective, not retrospective. Now they have made this judgment retrospective, therefore violating one of the important clauses of secrecy, which will tomorrow lead to revenge politics by any party that comes to power, that will try to victimize. That is one of the important factors which you have to keep in mind. And therefore, all judgments have to be prospective.
Okay.
They will come from the date onwards, and therefore it would not have influenced the elections. So this day forward onward from the date of the judgment, they could have drafted any scheme. Even the Supreme Court says there are better schemes, not saying that this is a bad scheme, that there are better ways of doing things.
Okay,
Supreme Court said so in the judgment.
Are political parties wanting to come together? Are our members of the parliament going to come together and vote for a better scheme for the welfare, for the good of the country and the good and the welfare of the countrymen as well? Because that doesn't seem likely. It's not happened in the 75 years of our independence. Likelihood of it happening in the next 75 years is zero. Quickly also getting in Sharad for a last word before I wrap up this discussion. Deshata Nigam said that, people have voted, organizations, corporates have voted because they want stability in our country. So going in favor of the BJP, which have gotten the maximum number of funds, could be one way of looking at it. But when we talk about, you cannot be so non-ulterior in your motive, because when a business is giving you funds, you would automatically expect for the government to create laws, give you tenders, pass tenders in your favor, so that your businesses prosper as well.
Well, there is a word in Hindi, Megha, which is called nishkam. Nishkam means when you're doing something for somebody and not expecting anything in return. Or if I define quid pro quo a different way. My learned speaker, Manaswi, said
unfortunately,
before
that's not how the world
they
works.
could have done better. Megha, I never said that this was the best way of doing it. I said this was better than what was happening before 65 years. This was much better than before. At least there is some degree of transparency. Earlier, there was nothing. Give me the names. Okay, here's the question. Give me the names in 65 years who donated to the Congress. Can these names, can Supreme Court give an order that in 65 years, I want the names of all the donors. Here is the final answer to your question.
Quickly, Sumit. Yeah, quickly, 30 seconds before I wrap this up. Yeah.
I want to make one point. There is a donor called Sunil Bharti Mittal who has given around 203 crores, right? Now, you know what is the net worth of Sunil Bharti Mittal. You know how big man he is. Can you tell me, Sunil Bharti Mittal, did he went with a truck of cash, deposited into SBI, and that cash was transferred to XYZ political party as electoral bond? No. It was legitimate earned money of Mr. Sunil Bharti Mittal, which was given in the form of electoral bond. Where is the problem here? Where does the
problem is that the Congress in Jairam Ramesh has come out with a big tweet. He said every single donor that has given donations to the BJP have gotten a quid pro quo return for their donation, whether it is Bharti Mittal, whether it is about that mega enterprises, or you talk about Martin, the Santiago Martin. Yeah.
Congress can argue anything. What has Sunil Bharti Mittal got? Are you telling me he's not a patriot? Are you telling me unki auqat nahi hai 200 crore donate karne ki? He's such a big man, he can do it. Out of goodwill for the country, after the love for the country. He's a person who can do it. Where is the problem?
Okay, all right. Interesting views. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast. I'll continue this debate. In the latter half of the day, we are talking about how it has been created into a political controversy, which is being raked up. Of course, the election season on the annual, the dates are going to be released. How are the political parties going to be able to make it a more lucrative argument for the people to vote for them, it remains to be seen.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.